A common narrative in the survival industry suggests that a surplus military gas mask is a comprehensive solution for environmental disasters. The idea is that a civilian can lock their doors and wait for an invisible threat to dissipate from a fortified room. This leads many to purchase inexpensive, decades-old hardware and store it away for a future crisis. In these scenarios, acquiring gear often takes priority over actual emergency training or situational planning. While these devices appear to be simple barriers, their use introduces a complex set of physiological and psychological variables. Relying on hardware without understanding its specific mechanical boundaries creates a false sense of security. In a high-stakes environment, an equipment failure is harder to manage than a well-executed evacuation plan. Buying a mask does not provide a permanent environmental shield. Instead, the moment the seal is broken on a filter, a specific biological timeline begins. To understand those limits, we have to look at hardware currently available on the surplus market, which is dominated by Soviet-era designs. Many of these masks, like the GP5, have been out of production since 1990. Their rubber components are prone to degradation over time, and laboratory reports have confirmed that the original filters contain 7.5% white asbestos and lead. Beyond the materials, there is the issue of thread compatibility. 40mm filters generally follow either the NATO standard or the Soviet GOST system. They look nearly identical, but the screw pitches are different. If a survivor forcefully screws a NATO filter into a GOST-threaded mask, the mismatched threads will bend the internal metal. This prevents the filter from seating against the rubber O-ring, creating a gap that allows contaminated air to bypass the charcoal and enter the mask. Even with a perfect thread match, the seal from the facepiece to the skin is easily compromised. Just a few days of facial hair, or the temple bars of prescription glasses, can lift the rubber enough to allow microscopic threads to enter the breathing zone. When the mechanical threads are damaged or the facial fit is imperfect, the device stops functioning as a filter and begins acting as a conduit for the very hazards it was meant to block. Physical reality further complicates long-term mask use. Surviving a grid-down scenario involves manual labor, chopping wood, hauling water, and moving supplies. High-efficiency filters are densely packed with HEPA paper and charcoal. Attempting to draw air through this resistance while the heart rate is elevated is the physiological equivalent of breathing through a narrow straw while running. As the wearer exhales, a portion of the breath remains trapped in the dead space between the face and the exhaust valve. During physical exertion, carbon dioxide concentrations in this space can rise rapidly. This buildup leads to a condition called hypercapnia. The human brain is highly sensitive to CO2 levels, and when they reach a critical threshold, it triggers an involuntary respiratory alarm. The symptoms include severe headaches and dizziness, often followed by an intense, panic-driven urge to remove the mask immediately. In a contaminated environment, this primal reaction can lead a survivor to expose themselves to the hazard. This biological response turns the mask into a trigger for panic, forcing the wearer to fight against their own respiratory reflexes to stay protected. There are also immediate logistical hurdles. Human breath contains water vapor that condenses against the interior surfaces of the mask. This condensation can eventually saturate the internal particulate filter. Once the paper filter media is wet, it can no longer pass air, effectively cutting off the wearer's oxygen supply. Furthermore, a masked survivor cannot consume solid food. Unless they have a specialized canteen system that integrates with the mask's drinking tube, hydration becomes impossible without breaking the seal. Sleeping in a mask presents a fatal risk. If a wearer experiences illness or exhaustion and vomits while asleep, they can quickly aspirate and drown within the facepiece. The combined pressures of hydration, nutrition, and respiration create a short-term limit on how long a mask can be worn. Eventually, it must come off. These limitations are why military doctrine regarding CBRN gear differs so sharply from popular survival myths. Professional military forces don't view this equipment as a way to live inside a contaminated zone. They treat it as part of an active decontamination and movement process. In practice, a gas mask is an escape tool. It's designed to provide enough time to move from a high-risk area to a safe zone. Effective protection relies more on training and verified modern filters than it does on the mere possession of military surplus. Using a gas mask to wait out a disaster at home fails to account for the biological and mechanical realities of the gear. Without a plan to reach clean air, a survivor risks turning their intended shelter into a rubber tomb.